Peace everyone, it's BlackHighPriestess. It's been a minute. I haven't really been active since my father's funeral. Going live, that is. I've been active, just not publicly. But I'm just making some salad, some kale salad as usual. This is a purple, it's like a purple type of kale. I forget the exact name of it. It's a pretty purple kale. It's a little, it's a bit fluffier than the curly green kale, but it still has a bit of the crisp at the end of the foliage, the way the other dark green kale does. So just chopping this up before it wilts too much. Just kind of cleaning out my fridge. So as you all know, I'm really into recycling, Witchcraft 101. So it's springtime, spring cleaning is coming up. Also, I want to shout out to my best friend Casimir. Happy birthday. Dope chick. Her birthday falls on Women's Day. I know it's like Women's Day or something like that too. And, you know, her whole brand started off just kind of elevating women, dykes, femmes. She did a lot of work with a lot of Latina and dykes of color in Chicago back in the 2000s, late 2000s. So shout out Cash if you're watching. But I'm just getting the kale together. I'm gonna give it a rinse, and then I'm gonna get some lemons from somewhere. See, lemons. I have these Meyer Citron lemons, and for the life of me, I can't tell if they're lemons or oranges because they look and taste like oranges, but they're like super sour or super sweet. They're like super sweet lemons, but I really honestly don't know. I'm not sure. This is a organic lemon, so, but I'm gonna do one of each for this salad. And then I've got this is some type of broccoli, sweet baby broccoli. I like the way it looks. It's a bit, the hair of the broccoli is a little bit more loose. It's not as coarse as like traditional broccoli. So I'm gonna give that a rinse, chop that up. I'm gonna get I have some Brussels sprouts here. English cucumber, jalapenos, shallots, garlic. So that's what we're working with right now. Let me know if y'all have any questions about anything. You said you're coming to Chicago? Oh yeah, what are you visiting for? What's the occasion? Make sure you bring a bulletproof vest and some bullet dodging skills. Just a heads up. The warmer it gets in Chicago, the more the bullets fly. People get reckless. Also, pedalize, heads up, there's 2 seasons in Chicago, winter and construction. So anytime it's like above 0 degrees, there's construction all over the city. So just a traffic warning if a lot of people aren't used to the level of construction that we can have here. But with COVID, traffic is kind of loosened up a little bit. All right, so we working with the kale here. And I'm gonna go ahead and dress it with olive oil. Oh, new bottle. Some delicious olive oil going. Massage that in. Really nice. I'm not going to overdo it with the salad. I usually make enough to last like a week. I'm just going to make enough for 2. Me, myself. Or 3. Me, myself, and I. Trinity salad. All right. And vinegar. I'm gonna save the red wine vinegar. I have like just a taste left, so I'm gonna save that as a last garnish, last finishing touch. A few squirts of apple cider vinegar. And the vinegar and olive oil and lemon dressing really allows you to not have to overdo it with any other dressing that you add. Or sometimes I don't even use salad dressing at all. It's dressed well enough, and I just enjoy the veggies and the chicken, which I do have on the stove. I have some chicken boiling with you know, you all know I can't concentrate with shit, so let's see here. 5 things at a time. So I have kosher chicken breast boiling with some Worcestershire sauce, whatever, and a dried Myers lemon, citron lemon, and a dried lime. I have dried basil, rosemary, a lot of thyme in here to fight off the plague, a little ginger root, some jerk sauce for the roux, and I have some Green Harvest seasoning, herbs de Provence, and a lot of coriander as well. So I skipped the salt, pepper, and I skipped salt, pepper, and garlic because I'm gonna be adding garlic to my salad, and I just don't want to overdo it with the salt. The ingredients, some of the other seasonings have plenty of salt, or salt substitutes. So 2 things I'm trying not to overdo it with: salt and sugar. I'm actually trying to cut back a lot of my sugar intake. So I'm working with, because I've been, you guys think I'm joking with the macarons, but I literally have been on a macaron diet. I have been on a macaron diet. That's all I've been eating. And that deals with the Erzulie energy, Erzulie, Lady of Sorrows. In Vodun, Erzulie can mount you, one, when you're connected to her spiritual energy and aligned with it, but also when you're going through depression, mourning, things like that. Erzulie rules the emotion of depression. And a lot of times it's not talked about because we focus so much on her beauty, her sexuality, her youthful virgin femininity, her freshness, her innocence. But we forget that the reason she rules sorrow and depression, not beauty, the way Oshun rules beauty, pleasure, femininity, Erzulie actually rules sorrow. Because the fact that she has so much to offer in the way of love through her femininity, but there's no object of affection. There's no place to pour out all of her love. And so she pours out those emotions through tears. Why is there no place to pour it? Because if you know the stories, the Patakis, the histories of Erzulie and her different paths, it's always a tragic ending love story. She either ends up in prostitution because she's sold off or taken off by the Spanish, or she ends up heartbroken because Ogun, chooses another or cheats on her with her sister, or, she ends up alone because her lover dies before he makes it to the altar. And so she has that bite of death, so to speak, that vampire bite, meaning that loss of innocence, meaning she dies as a virgin, and she experiences death as a virgin, and so she and that deals with being bit by a vampire, meaning still being alive but being stuck in that state of a 7-year-old or even a 14-year-old, dealing with the number 7 that's sacred to Erzulie. 7 times 7 to be exact. So these are mysteries of Erzulie. And so again, me, being Black High Priestess, the ancestors really, they work with me, they work through me, they work for me. And so Erzulie is always within me. But lately, the aspect of Erzulie, it's that Freda aspect where white things or bleach things, dealing with death. So I'm connecting to the color white in a way that prior to my father passing, or that rite of passage that I now have, I could not deal with white. It was taboo to me as Black High Priestess. So I'm recalibrating my rites to incorporate this aspect of whiteness that I have earned through death. Again, speaking to people who really get Vodun and understand what I'm talking about in these traditions and these mysteries. Erzulie has really taken over my diet, and that's something some of you all may experience when you're dealing with the Loa Erzulie. You may switch. If you're a drinker, you may find yourself switching to white liquor only, or strictly champagne, or wine, even white wine or pink wines, rosé specifically. That would be Erzulie. Finding yourself crying a lot, and finding yourself expressing your depression through art and adornment. So another thing when you're dealing with Erzulie, she's going to dress a certain way. So no matter how hot it is, or no matter what the weather is, she will adorn herself with lace gloves. Definitely a lot of headpieces and a lot of headgear covering the head, in lace or in things that represent mourning. I forgot the name of the headpiece, where but essentially anything that will veil you and veil your face, the way a widow would be, or the way a bride, because remember, she's the bride and the Lady of Sorrows. So she's the bride and the widow, the bride who is also a widow. So she's the virgin bride, the corpse bride, whatever. But that gets into Erzulie Bridget. So I'm getting off on a tangent. Probably too much information for my particular audience at this point. But that's just kind of what I've been dealing with. A lot of Erzulie. And let's get some lemon on the salad. It's a very spiritual experience, when you're dealing with the Loa, because they are not just the Orisha, the sources, the straight energies. They are the actual personalities, or the mysterious ways that the Most High expresses himself. And persona, because, I listen to... Oh, there it is. I listen to Charles Lawson a lot, and he talks about how, because he's a Bible scholar, and etymology is very important, especially in my line of work as Black High Priestess, understanding the etymology of words and in language and tongues, because casting spells, deals with the alphabet and symbology and etymology. And so persona, the original definition of persona, which I believe is a Latin word and term, is God manifest. God manifest in humanity. So the personality is the way God manifests in a human. It's an expression of the different characteristics of the Most High, of God, of that source. So the Loa in Vodun are the different personalities that an initiate will take on when they're experiencing spiritual initiation and spiritual rites of passage, or when they are embodying a particular aspect of God, a divinity of God. So it's, a character is, it can be a role that you play, because remember, acting traditionally goes back to prostitution, because the actress was originally a prostitute because she was playing a role for her suitor or her John, or the audience, whoever's looking at the performance. So character a lot of times is the behavior that we take on in society and the way we act. Sometimes we put on a certain character when we're at work, when we clock in. We learn what type of character to have as an employee, or we learn how to conduct yourself in public from your parents. The higher class you are, the more consideration you have for others in your social conduct. But the personality is originally, it's a spiritual thing. It's being mounted by an aspect or a mystery of the Most High that allows you to embody that aspect, embody that divinity. It's not just our ego. It's a divine state of being. And so the personality of Erzulie, we understand her relation to the colors pink, green, white, even purple when you're dealing with Bridget. But her personality is very depressed, and the ways that she expresses that depression are very uber feminine. So I've been just kind of to myself, allowing, the mourning process to take its course. And, in a way, I think I'm just enjoying my free time. I haven't gotten back to a lot of people because, frankly, I could care a lot less. I think people have the assumption that when someone is going through a depression, you want to talk, or you need to talk. And honestly, weak people need that level of social interaction. But strong people, we heal ourselves. And when we are actually actively healing ourselves, we don't need a bunch of people trying to latch on to our power under the guise of wanting to talk, when really you're trying to latch on to someone who's very powerful and strong when you believe they're at a weak point. And those of us who are really women of power, really women who are gifted, and people who are gifted, we know the difference between someone trying to latch on to us when they believe we're at a weak point versus someone trying to give us energy to assist in any healing process they think that we're going through, or they know that we're going through. And there's a stark difference. And the first way to detect that difference is if you feel drained by someone's energy, or if you feel empowered by it. And some people, they don't need to have a conversation with you and talk to you and waste your time and drain your energy in order to fill you with love and send love your way. And so, I want people who follow me to be able to make a distinction between people who are really supporting your healing process and people who are trying to latch onto you when they think you're weak because they want something for free. Again, if you all want an oracle consultation, you know the link to purchase. But don't flood my inbox with questions and comments and things because you're trying to get a free service, or you're trying to get free energy, or you're trying to get free attention. I don't need the things that some of you all are offering. I'm very specific about the things that I need in my life, and that I'm open to receiving. And I want other people to be specific about that too. Don't just take any and everything. Be really skilled at discerning the spirit that someone is approaching you with. And that's talked about in the Bible. It's talked about how the apostles were preaching, and they were, preaching the gospel of Christ, and there was a woman who was she was co-signing their words, and she was basically in the crowd saying, yes, these men are preachers, they're telling the truth and everything, and she was kind of glorifying their prophecy. But the prophets rebuked her. Why did they rebuke her? Because even though she was demonstrating accordance to what they were saying and agreeing with it, the spirit she was coming with was false. She was coming with a spirit where she wanted approval from people. She wanted attention and glorification from others for agreeing with people who were clearly in power and receiving the attention that she really wanted. So know the difference between someone trying to flatter you because it might make them look good, to say to trying to be in the arena or be at the level that you're at, or they may feel that they are at some type of spiritual level where they're equal to you and they have a right to address you face to face, and they don't. So set boundaries for people who are priestesses, priests, mages, witches, high priests. And those of you who have a flock, who are shepherds and who have a ministry and people are following you, learn to set boundaries with these people who want to contact you and without respect. The number one way to contact me with respect is get an oracle consultation. There's nothing that will be discussed on Messenger that won't be discussed in an oracle consultation. That's what it's about. The only way you're going to find out what I'm capable of and what I know is getting an oracle consultation. Some people take liberties of just teaching anything and everything to prove what they know. I don't have anything to prove. I'm here for people who have respect for the things that I do and are really trying to learn, or people who, if you really want to know something about me, it's to ask questions. So be wary of the spirit that people have right now. There's a lot of people with that spirit of it's a false, unclean spirit of doing whatever they need to do to get the attention or to get the monetization or to get the likes and loves and things like that. And some people have no genuine respect for the craft or for spiritual divinity or the art of sacrifice that is the tradition of Vodun. And right now we're in a time where it's the dumbing down of America, which has been happening for the past 25 years at least, if not straight 50 years. But and what I'm going to do with these, you can throw these lemon peels after you squeeze them. You can throw them in the bathtub, and that will help purify your skin, especially during COVID. Lemon, thyme, oregano, vinegars, anything to create the acidity needed to kill off bacteria and viruses in your body. Peppers, all those things are great. Turmeric, garlic, of course, and cinnamon. Cinnamon overall is a general health spice. So you can throw these lemons in the bath with some cinnamon, and that will and some oil of your choice. If you want to do some spell work, you can throw in some honeysuckle or hyacinth or hibiscus for Oshun love energy. Or you can just throw in some olive oil if you want to do a more pure Vodun, less witchcraft, more Vodun bathing ritual with Ashe of Oshun. And you can throw in some olive oil, a little basil. Or you can just do the lemons with some bath salts. Some eucalyptus, lavender bath salts, maybe some sandalwood there too. And that would really invoke the cleansing energy of Yemaya and that freshness and that purification, where salt water meets fresh water, where Yemaya meets Oshun. So those are some suggestions for the bath water. What I'm going to do is I'm going to throw this guy into my copper pot and use it for my sleepy time tea later tonight. And I already have lemon lime in there, so I'm going to save these for a next brew, and then one for my bath water. So let me know if you all have any questions about anything. I'm just going to keep chopping and chopping it up. I actually went to see the family of Nyandria Dyer, who is the 11-year-old girl who was shot in the Pullman neighborhood at the gas station while her mother, she was in her mom's car, the SUV, and she was shot at the gas station. Now another 11, 12-year-old boy was shot sitting in a car, and this time a car pulled up and fired at the SUV. So we don't know if it was mistaken identity or what, but that happened overnight, and I didn't get to send my regards to that family as well. But I did go to Comer Children's Hospital, which is not far from me at all, and the mother wasn't there. I know I heard a couple days ago that she was facing the decision to pull the plug because the daughter's still brain dead, Nyandria Dyer, or not. I honestly got the notion that maybe I could lay hands on her and petition the Most High, because I did see a vision of Nyandria playing with cherubim in heaven, and I wanted to let the parents know that she's playing right now with cherubim in heaven, and she may not want to come back. And I thought maybe I could talk to her spirit to try and convince her to come back to her mother while she's having fun with cherubim in heaven. But with all the COVID restrictions and everything, I just left my business card, and I think that that's important, and it might be something that I start doing more. Investing my energy in, what I originally started off, which was to elevate the Black community in Chicago. But it's like the vibration of Black Chicago is so in the gutter, in a lot of ways, that it's just so hard to fight that and to fight the ignorance of, spiritual power and fighting but the number one solution, and right now I'm just cutting up some beets. Beets are great for fibroids and for women's health. I just saw Cecile Johnson, a great Chicago activist, post about Afua, Dr. or Queen Afua, of the latest book that she's talking about the angry vagina or the angry womb or something. And I didn't read it, but it's discussing things that widely affect Black women because of the oppressed condition and because of the condition of our men. We don't have access to men who are super masculine and who really know how to deal with women a certain way. And the masculinity in the Black community a lot of times is about pimping and manipulating women because there's no direct ability to protect and provide. a lot of times without going through, white supremacy. And, that's the overall general attitude. And so the things, my brand really started off to help Black women combat, what has happened to our men and the things that we have to deal with as a result of not having eligible men in our race a lot of times, and having men who are damaged, who oftentimes take that damage out on the Black woman because they're not in a condition to take it out on the culprits, which are a lot of times white masculinity and white power. So my point is, beets are great for fibroids, and this is something that my mother told me about, that beets are good for combating fibroids. And in general, I guess because of their composition with iron, how much iron they have, and clearly in the color, it's a heavily melanated food, and it has that dark, rich color, and it will dye things. But that will restore the iron that women lose during any bleeding, and fibroids can cause you to have heavier bleeding. But I was discussing with some female family members and everything that who are in the medical field, and I was telling them, my spiritual perspective, that fibroids are directly related to, having sex with the wrong man, having sex with, men who are not a husband. And it doesn't necessarily mean having sex before marriage. It means having sex with a man who has no intention or desire to protect and provide for you. Having sex with men who are having sex with other women, who are lying, who are cheating. Women take on these things. And, a lot of times, at a young age, I always talked about women's sexual health. And it was important to me because, my mother, she named me Chastity, so it's no secret how my mother felt about sex. And that was very problematic for me because I embody sex goddess energy. I embody nymph energy. And, having a mother who was very religious and not very sexual, it caused me to really, that, and combined with, being raised by a single mother, no father in the home, seeing the issues that directly affected Black women, growing up around white people and seeing the stark differences between the privileges white women had, the access to husbands and stability and romantic prosperity that white women had, even with Black men, where Black women didn't even have those same options, even with our own men that white women have. And just seeing how terrible it is to be a Black woman. A lot of sisters, they didn't have to go through anything, so they don't get me when I talk about Black men and the Black race and compare Black people to white people in an actual scientific way based on my observations and studies, and not from a point of inferior Blackness where I feel obligated to defend the inferiority that I know and experience on a regular basis from Black people. So my point is, beets are great because fibroids affects Black women mostly heavily a lot. And it's directly related to the type of men we have in our race. The type of the problems with relationships between Black men and Black women are still related to slavery. And if we take the discussion of racism out of slavery and just strictly talk about the effects of slavery that are still causing health problems in the average Black American, and stop talking about the racism, stop talking about the white people, and let's talk about the effects. We're still dealing with a level of inferiority in Black men. We're still dealing with mass incarceration, which is related to racism. But when it comes to women, we don't want to talk about the tangible ways that we can qualify how Black women are unhealthy because of how slavery castrated our men. We are expected to constantly defend black men and support all these things that deal with black men's health. And the fact that the black woman is extremely unhealthy, and dealing with suicidal energies, but still has that strength to still go on, and there's no help for her, there's no counseling for her. That's how Black High Priestess emerged, being the help that I never got. It's important that black women understand there's things you can eat, diet, exercise, and again, different ritual work, spell work, and spiritual things that you can do to combat the spiritual spell and the spiritual curse over our race. And a lot of sisters, you got to start with your hair. You got to start with the way you deal with your hair and your relationship to your hair and your body. You got to start there. Same thing with black men. A lot of brothers, you got to start with your diet. You got to start with all that pork, all that fat, all that grease that you eat. A lot of and it's not a lot. I'm talking about Chicago, South Side. I'm not talking about where I actually come from in the environments that I do spend time in when I want to be around people who I relate to on a different level. I'm talking about where I come from. Black people, it's not okay to keep eating all that grease and all that stuff and the high fructose corn syrup, and it's not okay to feed your children that poison when you have the option to take your butt to a different aisle of the stores that are now in the hood thanks to gentrification. It's not okay to keep having these conversations about racist white people when we choose to be slaves because it's easier and it's all we know. And then black men get mad about, talking about dates at expensive restaurants and things like that. A lot of black people's taste buds are programmed to like poisonous foods. And a lot of black people go out to places with fancy high class food or different culinary food that's not full of salt and sugar and grease, and they don't like it because it's real food. And they say, oh, they taste bad. And that's why people hate serving black people at restaurants, because black people are known to complain, because black people are known to be picky, because black people want to go out and dine and fine dine when all you know is a high fructose corn syrup grease diet, and all you know is some hood soul food cooking. And so everything that's fine dining is nasty. It's not, and it's not that other races don't do that. But, with other races, it's, oh, my child is allergic to everything except, celery. And that now becomes the restaurant's problem. That's how white people are annoying. But with, black people, we have to realize that the low class that we have, the low class uneducated lifestyles that we live, that it shows when we go out into environments. And that's why people have negative stereotypes, because they deal with the same thing from the same race on a regular basis, and that's how stereotypes are born. So my brand is about taking away the excuses and letting black people know you want to be equal, act like it. Don't make excuses for why you do things and then want to be treated as an equal. You either want to be pitied as the inferior race, or you want to be held to the same standard that everyone else is held to. You can't have it both ways, though. And that's what black people want in America. A lot of times. We want it both ways. But, again, this is just a more esoteric conversation about race in America. What I think people want in general, black or white in America, is, our freedom and our liberty. So take time to think about people like Nyandria Dyer. I'm cutting up the Brussels sprouts now. And think about, because it, and it really touched me when I think he's like, it said Street Pastor Donovan Price. They held some type of prayer vigil or something. And he was talking about how, it would be a lot more black people mad if it was a white cop that shot her. But because this is an unknown teenager who was practicing gun violence against another black unknown teenager, from what I understand, not only has no one came forward, which again, we have a heavy code of Chicago of not snitching. So that's to be expected. But the way we deal with each other as a community, these are some things I always talk against as BlackHighPriestess, and that lack of concern we have until it hits home. And it could have been you. I know how I felt when my cat almost died. I sat 9 hours in the cold waiting for him to be released, and everything, calling everyone in my phone. So I can imagine, your child is, hanging on by a thread, and every day you're holding on, trying to not make the decision to pull the plug. And the biggest problem with black people, or with people in general, a lot of times is you don't have the ability to put yourself in someone else's shoes. There's no empathy. There's no empathy, until it happens to you. The biggest problem with black men is a lot of black men don't care or have any regard for the black woman's experience. She is literally an object to him until he has a daughter. That is the lack of empathy and the lack of humanity that I'm talking about. That demonic spirit where I don't care unless it happens to me. I don't care about anyone else. I only care about myself. And now that I have to deal with this, now I'm a black revolutionary. Now I'm speaking up for black women. Now I'm about women's rights. Now I care about this. And we need to stop supporting people like that. We need to stop coddling people who all of a sudden joined a activism because they don't have any other outlet to help them. And the moment you help them and heal them and give them some energy and information, they're going to go right back to doing their white supremacist cracker nigga shit that they was doing. Because they had no track record for caring. And that's why Black Lives Matter rose a lot of skepticism to me, because I saw a bunch of black people marching and things like that. And I felt, of course you're going to march. There's a lot of victims of police brutality, surviving families. But, we constantly want the country to care about the things that, we don't care about in our own race on a regular basis, on a regular day-to-day basis. And the reason that, it's difficult to talk about is because on average, I would say the majority of black people do deserve reparations, do deserve a leg up, do deserve more access to resources. It's, but we suffer for the actions and the ignorance of, the few, and it's hard to say statistically, but, a lot of black people are suffering the stereotypes that, the few create in our race. So, at some point, being a community is not waiting until it happens to you, and not only getting involved when it is directly affects you. Be a help to someone else, so you can create that energy, that karma energy, that karmic vibration. That is the only currency that most black people have to work with. Our karma is sometimes our only currency that we have to work with. And that is to say prayers are the only currency that a lot of black people really have to work with, you know. So Brussels sprouts. All right, now let's get some garlic in here. You said the negative energy is running through the Naga's bloodline. Yeah, I think good things are happening, but you know, I'm not going to be silent, you know, about the real problems and the real solutions. So, all right. I'm going to put the rest of the broccoli in here and the rest of the kale in here. Throw this back in the fridge. Grab a carrot while I'm at it. So let's rinse this baby broccoli off. Yeah. It's got a little spinach leafy thing too on the stems. I can dig it. All right. So I got my chopping up here, and so we got the purple kale dressed in olive oil. Citron lemon, organic lemon, apple cider vinegar, some beets, Brussels sprouts. Now we're going to get some baby broccoli on there. I'll work with this a little bit. I'm going to take out these little spinach thingies off the stem. I'm going to do the broccoli the same way I do the kale. Save the stems. Peel the stems off. And I'm just going to compost these. There's things you can do. You can stick them in chicken. I can throw it in the blender, you know, and make a broccoli paste, make soup with them. So there's a lot of things you can do, especially once you have a food blender, a food chopper, processor. There's so much you can do before you can just have to compost. So I'm gonna save these broccoli stems. Alrighty. A lot of broccoli here, maybe a little bit too much. So you said, we are conquered people. The devil will not give us men any slack until we love ourselves. Yeah, and Prince, you said you're going to be out here soon. So Petalize is coming to Chicago. Prince, you're coming back, which is great because I do have a gift bag for you. I have not forgot about, you know, everything. So I do have a gift bag of my products. I'm getting gift bags together for family and friends and stuff too. So thanks, Petalize. So yeah, and when I talk about black people, I'm really going to start specifically talking about Chicago. I think a lot of times I you know, I don't give disclaimers because, you know, I guess I just assume, you know, but I want people to know that a lot of times I'm specifically talking about the blacks here in Chicago. Remember, we widely come from the Delta. We widely come from Mississippi. We widely migrated with DuSable to here from Mississippi. Mississippi is known to have the most retarded breed of blacks, the most inferior, easily conquered, very passive, slightly retarded breed of blacks. We're known for that. And so we brought that slowness and that kind of, you know, inferior bred blood. And this goes back to Native American tribes. You know, different Native American tribes had different relationships with the Anglais and the Français. And you know, And the South Americans were really gully because a lot of them, they living in that terrain over there where it's hot, and they got that hot attitude. Ain't no vegetation, ain't nothing to eat but vermin, and it's all hot and scorched land. Ain't nothing, and the water's inside of a spiky cactus, and so they got that attitude. They got them arrows, they ready, they gully. And then you got some people live around rivers and lake and swamp, and things are chill and slow because you don't have to worry about, there's food and water is more prevalent, and so it's like, so you got to understand how climate and habitat directly affects the genome and the evolution of the ethnicity and the behavior of that clan, of that creed, and of that breed. So, these are things that people don't want to talk about because black people don't want to think scientifically. We want to claim we have all this comedic science, but we don't want to analyze our inferiority with science, with the same science that we ruled in ancient Kemet. So I don't have time for all of this, we all this and all that, and about, I don't have time for that. If you're scientists, be scientists and act like scientists and analyze the black race scientifically. It's not hard. All you got to do is take your blackness out of the equation and put reality into it. And then you can come up with a conjecture that will start creating a solution. But as long as you keep your blackness in it and want to speak about black people from a place of ego, you're not going to correct the inferiority in our race. So the broccoli is just amazing. Oh my God, this broccoli. I'm in love with this baby. I don't think I'll ever go do regular broccoli. It's just so special. Look at that. Alrighty. So we'll get the cucumber going. Let's cut half of it. Give it a quick rinse. Cover up the chicken is boiling. It's gonna be pretty much done by the time I'm done. I would have been done, but I'm bumping my gums because I haven't hung out with y'all in a minute. But it is getting warmer. I will be going out more, trying to get out the house. I just honestly I don't like getting out the house because one, people people don't like to keep their space. And I swear now with COVID, black people are getting closer to me instead of keeping their distance. And it's like every time I leave the house, especially with the spiritual energy and tension, the bus could be empty. I will be the only person on the bus. Free seats. And black people will come sit in the seat fucking next to me when you have the whole bus to choose from. I'm sick of that shit. I'm tired of it. I'm tired of the invasion of my personal energy and personal space. I'm tired of that. So I don't enjoy going out in public anymore because I got to deal with humans all the time. And that shit is annoying as fuck. So, I'm getting to a point where I'm trying to get out more and things, but it's like there's humans everywhere. And they don't know personal space. They think I'm Christ, and they think that getting next to me or even touching me or brushing up against me is going to heal the curse on their blackness. And they're right. They're right. I am a healer. And I do have Holy Spirit. And I'm an empath, so I can heal with the power of touch. But it's disrespectful. And that's why people who are really carrying a level of divinity, we stay covered up, we stay in silent, and because it's at a point where humans, you humans are annoying. You're irritating, you're disrespectful, and you want to rub your unclean spirits all around, everywhere. And I'm sick of y'all coming up, trying to come up next to me and get next to me and be next to me, because I'm not Christ. I'm not Christ. You know, and I'm not that forgiving. I'm working on it. I'm praying for more forgiveness. Believe me, I am. Trust me. I have to pray a lot for it, but I'm not Christ. You know. So I don't feel that same obligation to humans. I'll just as quickly take that healing energy and destroy you with it. Because because I can be temperamental, you see. So be careful these days how you deal with, coming face to face with divinity. Have some respect for people's personal space. You know when someone's demon possessed, because they have no respect for your personal space. They're just desperate to interfere with your divinity. So put up spiritual spikes around yourself. Put up spiritual spikes. When you're sitting on the bus, put up a spike. You know, when you're sitting waiting and you don't want to be bothered, put spikes next to you. Put spikes up, spiritual spikes. So when people come around you, come sit next to you, try and be around you, they sit down, their nervous system is going to be fucked up. They're going to sit on that spike. And they're gonna deal with the consequences of invading your personal divinity. You know? And like I said, I just commented on that. Black people's need to invade each other's personal space is directly related to the close quarters black people were put in during slavery. So now black people hate when other black people are not under the curse. When other black people have an air of superiority. You know, because a lot of black people still think like slaves and feel inferior and behave that way. And live that way, where it's their personal duty to make sure every other black person is on a low vibration like them. And when you're vibrating higher and you're around a slave energy, you know, that's how slaves act a certain way. You got slaves, and then now you got that black person who rose up, the black woman who dares to wear locks. What, you're not wearing weave? You don't feel pressure to look like a white woman? And then they just flock to you and crowd to you, and then you become like a museum exhibit. Because they don't understand how you are free enough to think for yourself, where you don't have to wear weave. Wow, your body looks nice. You work out. You take care of your body. Oh, and that's how black people in Chicago act. Like they never had the notion until they saw you. They never had the notion. And I'm sick of niggas who ain't never had no notions. I'm sorry. And then I say things on my social media, and then people, you get the notion to comment, which is cool, because usually people with some level of intelligence comment. But it's just like, you all think I'm confined to my blackness, and I'm not. You all think that I say half of the things I say because I'm a black woman, and I don't. I say it because it needs to be said. And someone should say it, and it shouldn't take someone going through hell as a black woman to speak up for what obviously is going on with black women. But everyone likes to see black women inferior, so there's no campaign to get black women to love their natural hair and stop embarrassing our race by wearing weave and wigs and stuff, but then wanting reparations. Which one is it? Are you a slave or not? This is my problem with my race. And the embarrassment. Black people are not embarrassed enough. But a lot of you all don't have to be around white people, and you're so well. See, black people say you talk like a white girl, but racist white people will say you're so well spoken. What's the difference between a white person